I'll turn on my camera and introduce myself. It's Randy Marcotte, one of the co-owners of Perfect Video Conferencing. You can always reach me at 516-282-2812. Mike, go ahead and wave. No need to unmute, but that's Mike Granados, one of our senior sales guys. On the bridge side of this, you'll also see kind of an empty room on a BCC 950, and I wanted you all to see that. You see one of the boxes. And then on the larger screen, you've got Alex, who's in on an Icon unit. Alex, go ahead and wave. She's our marketing director and the one who's been gracefully emailing you. So if we haven't hit the right touch around the number of contacts we send out to you or the type of information we send, Alex and I would really like to know. We're not heavy into spamming people unnecessarily. We do believe we have something unique to offer to the market. So if our balance is not right, we need to know so we can approach you with this great technology a little bit better. So outside of that, for logistics, I think we should go ahead into content, but I'll leave a moment for Alex to comment on how this should progress or if she's got any logistics based on any of the chat or emails, because I know she's been managing this. So Alex, I'll pause for a second to see if you've got any content or any logistics you'd like to cover.
Thank you, Randy. I will be monitoring the chat, so feel free to ask any questions at any time. And other than that, yeah, as Randy said, we're broken it into 3 different modules, and I believe we'll be starting with the endpoint, LifeSize endpoint.
Sure. Great. And then ultimately the question then becomes, how does this all come together? So Alex, I know in that room we end up by having some echo issues, so please go ahead and mute. We're going to go into this infrastructure, ClearSea, and then the bridge. You'll see people popping in and out of this session as they come in, and here comes Mel. So Mel, thanks for joining. She's on ClearSea, so you'll see that as a component. Melissa manages a lot of our accounts payable issues and ordering, but she also does tier 1 support issues and sometimes even some tier 2 stuff because she's just awesome and she's Mel. Mel, we're asking everyone to stay on mute for the purposes of clean recording. So thanks for joining. All right, the first section then being on endpoints, and I open this up with more of a rhetorical question about what is an endpoint, and want to put that into context that we really don't care what endpoint you call us on. We just want to make sure you have a great experience. And for us, 10 years ago, an endpoint was absolutely a telepresence room, highly designed, 3-camera array, multiple screens, and $300,000. Or it was a simplified telepresence unit at maybe $50,000. And then a lot of the codec prices changed, and that became a box that was anywhere from $6,000 to $20,000. And in today's world, an endpoint is wherever you have a camera. And we're going to want to be able to manage from the mobile device, and you'll see me join in on the ClearSea segment from this device, to a highly specialized conference room. And the average price point for the actual devices to do video have come down from anywhere from $1,000 to a specialized device all the way up to about $20,000 to $25,000, depending on what you want the hardware to do. But given that the cloud is so popular, the question becomes, quite frankly, to most of us, is why would we bother with hardware solutions that run all of it locally? Why wouldn't we leverage your data center, our data center, or the cloud in order to manage some of that? So that points specifically to who the heck is Perfect Video Conferencing. We started selling these devices. We will always sell these devices, but we also started as a managed service provider, knowing that you may not want to make the investment in this infrastructure and you'd rather have us manage it. And because we have the data centers and the infrastructure to provide it, if you don't want any of this in your colo infrastructure, we can provide it. So prior to the cloud providers like Zoom and BlueJeans and Civo and Uvu and Skype and quite frankly Google Plus having high density bridges, we were doing that, and we welcome those other players to that community. We provide those bridges as well, but really the endpoint for us has become the way in which you enhance the end user experience. The bridge and ClearSea then ties them together. So I wanted to show 3 different endpoints while pointing at a 4th and then potentially a 5th. But endpoint number 1 has become kind of a change in the way the infrastructure comes together. So quite frankly, what is an endpoint? It can be a laptop with a highly specialized camera, and in addition to that camera, a speakerphone that does it. So this is the new Logitech CC3000. It's got a speakerphone and a remote control, a highly non-destructible remote control, we hope. A remote control built in. All of the functionalities and echo cancellation done by this base unit. A hub that's USB, and S-Video ties in the speakerphone and the camera. And I'll just go ahead and show the local video on this. This is just a basic ClearSea client on a desktop, so I've got it on the laptop and on the computer, mirroring the screens. And then if I show local video, you'll see now in today's world what we have is a simplified speakerphone, making sure it does all the echo cancellation, just a basic laptop, a 10x pan tilt zooming camera, and software that does all the manipulation you need in order to get good video. But as I toggle this around, notice that you don't get the fluid motion that you normally would and you expect on the other devices that I'll show. What I'll say about that, though, is for $1,000, who cares? Quite a bit of resolution and quality. Great way of focusing, pan tilting and zooming. And at the end of the day, for us, what we see this as is not your primary executive conference room, not your most used conference rooms, but in huddle rooms, or the 30 other conference rooms that you may have in your infrastructure that you haven't equipped yet with video, or that you haven't used a big TV to provide the video experience. You're relegating that to a simple desktop experience. And so none of the software integration that you'll see to the bridge, none of the fluid motion, but a lot of quality and a very great price point. And when you couple that with great desktop software, and we've tested this with Zoom and Blue Jeans and this ClearSea client, it's USB driven to the laptop, and so generally agnostic to whatever you're doing at the desktop, and scales obviously much easier than the $5,000 camera or the $4,000 camera array. I'll show you. The other one worth mentioning that a lot of you have used, or many of you have seen, is the BCC 950. So it's just a simple Logitech camera bought through resellers like us that also can turn a laptop into a higher quality, or a TV into a higher quality video conferencing experience. Again, never going to be the codec experience that we're used to seeing. Never going to give you the phone apparatus or the plug-in apparatus. So I've gone to the back of one of the boxes here. It's one of the codecs. And what we like about, and this is actually a Team 220, is that you've got a lot of things that you can plug into and come out of, and you can support dual screens, network ports, and ISDN. And that device is designed as an endpoint to do the things that you want in your more complicated rooms. Native content sharing, multiple network connections for a phone or video, dual camera connections, so you can have more than one location in the room. So when you want more out of your conference room, you can get more out of the device. And I changed from that camera location just with a simple click of the button. So up from the desktop solution, we can go down over to the mobile device. Oops, sorry, wrong camera. You have to get your cameras right in order to do that piece. So similarly, this thing has a camera, so this can be an endpoint. So up from the iPad, you go up to the purposely built cameras. From those purposely built cameras, you go to codecs. And LifeSize is offering 2 flavors of codecs. And so the second piece of what we wanted to talk about when we're talking about endpoint devices is the difference today in how we deliver against what was the Legacy 220 series and now the Icon series. What you're seeing on screen there now is the camera picking up the other unit and me off the screen on that. So we've got an Icon 600 which is LifeSize's newest product, a 10x camera, and a mic pod connecting it, and it's just over on a TV pointing back in my direction. The value of this infrastructure, I think if I get my presets right, is it all ties together nicely with the Phone 2 infrastructure from LifeSize. The new remote, simplified, 6 buttons. You can go up, down, left, right for 4 of them. Center button to select, and a dead center mute button. All of the functions that you may have on screen or on the other remote, and so this is the original LifeSize remote for their 220 series. All of those coordinate with software that's presented on screen. We'll attach to this training a data sheet that has the portfolio, and the product mix is fairly simple. You go from a roughly $4,000 codec all the way up to about an $18,000 codec, and depending on which you choose, you get different functionalities. Mike would love to sit down with you and talk to you about the different boxes. But again, if you haven't heard it once, you'll probably now heard it 10 times. We don't really care the size of the deployment. What we want to do is tie it all together. You'll see that piece of tying it together through the next module in ClearSea, and then the final module on the bridge. So today's module or infrastructure could be in the LifeSize portfolio, could either be the 220 series. There's an Express, a Room, and a Team unit. I'll show you the back of the Team unit again. And then it could be the Icon unit. What we like about the Icon unit, and what we believe has really changed the market, is the on-screen menu for software performance. So if you notice as I navigate, and again, I'm using that remote, all of the functionality that I would normally use to make a call or participate in a video call or use my system is now moved over to the on-screen menu. Another great thing about it is you tie it into the infrastructure. You can get recents that you called and select and add those to your favorites so that your users have one place to go for connectivity. And I wonder if I should just have it call the bridge. I want to have this call into the bridge. We're going to get echo in a moment. Here comes the echo. Benefit there. I can choose the on-screen menu to then choose to add or change my layout. All right, so the other unit is now going to pick up my audio. I'll lower the volume on this one to cancel that out. So now the audio you're getting now is over from the Icon unit. And what's great about the new way LifeSize provides integration is that on screen the end user can make the changes that they need to. Again, what we like about the phone as the great equalizer is if I don't feel like going on screen, I can go over to the phone and do exactly the same thing. So I can start presentation from the phone, and then here comes content. I can choose layouts and then change the way it performs on screen. So it doesn't matter for us whether or not you get the 220 or the Icon infrastructure. The phone becomes the tool for us to integrate both together in a way that's seamless for you as the end user. So back over to the Icon. Once I'm done with that call and I don't want to participate, I can go ahead and just I hung up and I had muted. So let me back up. I've come back over to the Icon unit. Sorry you couldn't hear me there for a moment. What I did on the Icon unit is I hung up the call and went back to a normal layout. And what I wanted to point out is that on all of our infrastructure, we're going to always provide you the ability to do camera and content simultaneously. Whether or not you choose to do that is up to you. And what we like about the Icon and the Express unit is that as devices are plugged into it, you can use these great TVs as projectors. Don't have everything plugged in over there, but you get the point. The other thing we like about the LifeSize infrastructure is that when they're properly integrated and you've purchased the video center infrastructure, you can use them as, like we're doing here, to both record camera content, desktop content, or both. And then when you're using this codec, you can use the codec to then be in a meeting and record, or in a meeting and stream, or just as a projector. So it simplifies your conference rooms from the beginning and by design. A couple other things I want to talk about on endpoints, but I tend to be a broken record as I start getting excited about the technology, so I think I'll pause for a moment and see if Mike or Alex have anything to add about the endpoint conversation. I know I have to give you a couple of moments to unmute just in case you do want to say something about the endpoints. Head shake no if you're not interested. Go ahead, perfectly fine. Or unmute, say all good, Randy. All right, Mike's giving me the all good. Alex is giving me the all good. Anything coming in on chat, Alex?
Nope, I'm still monitoring. No questions quite yet.
Good. All right, so I'm going to go back to content sharing just for a minute, just to make sure this is all crystal clear, because I know sometimes I get too excited about this, and maybe my sentences make sense to me, but they don't make sense to you. That's what really counts. I'm going to go over to the LifeSize.com website, just because I want you to see where you can get information about the endpoints. As I'm loading that, the thing to remember is that the market has chased for the bottom. And what I mean by that is we now know we can get a $1,500 endpoint. And so that's roughly, and you can get a free Skype account. So we have roughly reached the end of everyone needing $250,000 deployments. Those still exist, but people aren't doing them nearly as much. And so we've now reached a point where we're looking to democratize access to the conference rooms and video conferencing. And if you go over to the systems part of LifeSize, you'll see how they articulate that story. I've been mostly talking about the 220 infrastructure. One of the great things about the 220 infrastructure is that they have lots of ability to integrate with third-party connections like Extron or Crestron or controlling devices. So very solid infrastructure not going away. And then the other piece about endpoints becomes systems icon. As we talk about Bridge and ClearC next, what we'll end up by seeing is that the philosophy behind icon and the low price point is really designed so that you as a company can think about where and when you need to get video conferencing in place and worry a little bit less about budget. The technical deployment of icon is a lot easier than most of the other infrastructure because there's an assumption about it being connected to a bridge or ClearC. The functional difference, and you'll see this on the data sheet, is that the icon is only ever a point-to-point connecting device, whereas the 220 series, both the team and the room, have embedded bridges. So the low MSRP on the icon really comes from the fact that what they've done is removed any of the embedded bridging that's built into the more expensive team unit or the more expensive room unit in the 220 series. So. All right, we're going to pause for a little bit and mute out and wait till the top of the hour. That's 5 minutes from now until we get ready to go on the ClearC infrastructure. So meanwhile, I'll unmute my desk phone. So if you've got any questions that are quick, you can reach me at 516-282-2812. Again, this is really designed as an opportunity to get a glancing blow at what the endpoints look like from a LifeSize perspective. And hopefully you're intrigued by the Logitech camera and the ClearC software because we see that is actually the future of what some of the endpoints look like into a larger deployment of conference rooms versus a specialized deployment in one specific conference room. So great. We'll